Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Inside Unreal, a show where we learn, explore, and celebrate everything Unreal. I am your host, Tina, and today we're going to be talking about the ACOM sample projects. There's a lot to dig into and some really cool stuff. I'll make sure that we also drop a bunch of links in chat throughout. We'll make sure we link out to the actual sample projects themselves so you can check it out for yourselves if you're interested, as well as there are two lessons that came out in tandem with it. So we'll also link those so you can walk through those, get all that good information. Before we dig into the topic at hand, there's a couple really cool things that happened recently I want to let y'all know about. The first is, of course, Unreal Engine 5.7 released. So, in case you were unaware, I'm sure most are at this point, but it's out now. It's been out for a week. There's some really awesome updates that came out with it as well. So, please go download it, play around, let us know what you think. If you experience any bugs or things like that, please let us know over on the Epic Developer Community forums. And also just if there's things that you like or things that you're enjoying, things that you want to see more of in the future, all that kind of good stuff. Let us know your feedback. We're here to take it into account and continue to adapt the engine in ways that best benefit you as we go forward. And the other big news this week, in case anyone missed it yesterday, we announced that Unity and Epic will actually be working together to bring Unity games into Fortnite, creating more opportunity and value for players and developers alike. Plus, developers will have the ability to publish Unity games into Fortnite, one of the world's largest gaming ecosystems, with more than 500 million registered accounts worldwide, and participate in the Fortnite creator economy. Also announced is Unity will be bringing Unreal Engine support to their cross-platform commerce platform. I will say that correctly at some point in the future. Not today, but at some point. This will give Unreal developers more choice for managing everything from their digital catalogs and payment providers to web shops across PC, mobile, and web. So lots of cool stuff there. We'll drop the blog post if you're curious and you want to learn more about what all is going on there. You can read more there. And yeah, lots of cool things. Lots of cool things on the horizon. Would also love to hear what y'all are feeling about all this stuff too, and what's next for all of us. With that in mind, we'll disregard all of it. We'll go into the topic for today specifically. So first, I want to introduce our wonderful guest for this evening, Marco. Marco, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi. Sure. My name is Marco Folia. I've been an animator for 25 years. I've been a supervisor, I think, for the last 10-ish, and I work at Agora Studio, where we just kind of finished this project directly in Unreal this year, and that's what we're here to talk about, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
which
spent
I'm very excited to. And thank you for being here, by the way, doing this. I appreciate you taking your time to walk us through it and talk a little bit about the almost like the behind the scenes kind of the project and some of how it
yeah,
went.
sure. Yeah, I
Um,
hope it's fun for everybody.
it should be. I'm already looking forward to it. So, like I said, we'll drop a link for the project sample in case folks want to download it and play around right now. But in case anyone's unfamiliar with what it is in general, do you mind giving us kind of a synopsis of what this is?
Yeah, so like a bit of history. We have a website that you're going to see my face on it too, where we have just free educational content. And we have other tiers and stuff like that. There's going to be kind of a relaunch later in the year, but we give away a lot of free rigs, and we made a series of characters in Maya that we just wanted to give to the community so they could learn just how to animate and stuff. It's been going on for a few years now. And last year, a couple of years ago, we kind of decided to just do little kind of intro shorts for each of the characters. There's five kind of archetypes. There's like a big muscle guy, and an adult, and a child, and a quadruped, and basically a bouncing ball. You'll see them all in the project when we open it up. And so we thought that would cover kind of the basis of all the stuff people could just kind of use to learn how to animate. And then our kind of CEO and got together with some other people, and they came up with these five kind of scenarios for each of them. It was sort of like this one event of their compound or whatever getting raided by robots, I guess. And you see the event from each of their perspectives. So that seemed like a fun thing to do, and it seemed like a fun little kind of exercise we could do on the side. Everybody that ever worked on the shows were just they were in between projects, we just wanted to kind of keep people learning and practicing also internally. So we did our first short that way last year. We did it in Maya though, and we used Unreal to render because we were really at the beginning of our learning of how to use Unreal last year. Actually, I think it's almost a year and a half, 2 years ago, actually. I take it back.
Wow.
But then this year, we were talking about it at the end of last year to kind of do the next one, which was called Beta. So the characters, I should say, all have like a Greek name. It's Alpha, Omega, Beta, Gamma,
Very cool.
Delta. Yeah. And we wanted to kind of do the second one totally in Unreal. We started to learn just a couple of months before we started, to be honest. So we were just learning as we were going. Very much it was, how did our producer say it? We were building the track as we went.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of there's a lot of knowledge out there in Unreal, especially there's like a lot of documentation from Epic, but we just took it on as a challenge to try and do the second one totally in Unreal. So that's what we did. And that's kind of what we then later, I think they started talking to Epic about it directly, and now we released it as a fab project. Um, there's two fab projects. One is just pure the animation and just more of a linear kind of pipeline to just do cinematics and stuff like that. The other one is more for previs and storyviz. I won't be talking about that one too much. I didn't really wasn't involved in that too much except for those initial stages where we were doing some of the previs.
Hmm.
It's animatics, I should say. It's kind of hand drawn. It's pretty sweet. And but yeah, we're gonna go through the cinematic one, the one that's got all the rigs and the characters in it. It's kind of mostly what I can talk to or speak about, I should say.
That's awesome. And we'll link out to everything in the chat so folks can check out both versions if they'd like. But if you're ready, I'm ready
Yep.
to dig in and look at this project.
Yeah, sure. We can switch to the interface. I'm open. Oh, I should say I'm opening up a local one that I have, the one that we worked on. So it might not be exactly what's on Fab, some of the structure, but it's pretty much the same. It'll open up like this. I set my settings to low, but this is if you want to get right into the edit. I won't use that right now. I think I'll just do it manually in a bit. But I figured I could show everybody at least the basics of what's in here. I did record a walkthrough video where I have a very soft voice. So it's basically going to cover the same thing, but just in case, there's also I can answer questions live to the best of my knowledge of anything that's in here if anybody has questions. But when you do open it up, oh, I thought my Unreal crashed. That's hilarious.
We're starting
Thank,
strong.
great timing. Yeah, okay. Let me just get you back too. I think I just clicked something. There you go. So when you first open it up, this one has a lot of stuff. This is our assets. So in here, you'll find all the character rigs. Um, I don't know the knowledge of everybody in the stream. So if you have questions, let me know. Like I know a decent amount about this, but basically you'll see the materials, the rigs. All the rigs are made with like scale meshes, if you know what that is. So it's just basically I'll try to open some of these. I'm not sure how long they'll take to load. This is just the base mesh that we started in Maya. These are the same characters that we have the Maya versions for. So we did build this in Maya. There's no kind of complete modeling thing yet that we know how to use in Unreal, but I feel like that's the plan one day to just do everything in Unreal, whatever comes out. So these are there. And then on top of that, we have control rigs that you can use. They're modular rigs. They're like a new way to rig stuff. I am absolutely not a rigger. So if you have rigging questions, it's unlikely I can help you too much. But we're gonna be doing a lot of part of the Agora community site where we kind of release content. We're gonna be doing a bunch of stuff on courses in Unreal and how to animate and how to rig with the people that did. Like I said, we learned a lot trying to make this project. So you're gonna have a bunch of rigs you can play with. The same ones we use for the short. We focused on really trying to make our first goal when we made this was to try and make them exactly like our Maya rigs. Our Maya rigs are pretty like pro rigs. They have a whole bunch of features, all the stuff that you would expect in a regular studio. It's the rigs that we also use for our projects when Agora rigs something, or at least it's a version of them anyway. So we did aim for that, but because we were learning, we didn't quite get to that same level. But iteration and like techniques will keep improving and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to get there one day for sure. I think that's the goal anyway. But we did, for interest of time, right? Because we still had a certain limited time to do the short. We focused on Beta and the robot. Beta is the hero of this one, so he's got the most work into him. And the robots, obviously, there was tons of robots in the short, so those are the ones we did the most. The other rigs are all in there, though. We totally used them for shots. We were able to finalize shots with them. So you'll notice that they're maybe not as feature complete, let's say, as Beta and the robot, but they're all in there. Um, while I'm in here, I might as well talk a little bit about what I do know. Let me bring Beta in. I'm not going to do a full walkthrough. Oh, I brought in the wrong one. Sorry. I meant to say modular rig. I won't do a
Now we just
complete
get to see
walkthrough.
multiple, so it works out.
And that's the beauty. Like, I really mean this. Like, I turned into an Unreal fanboy after this project. Like, I really enjoyed working in it. I'm not lying. I'm being honest. Uh, but the real time part of it is pretty cool. I mean, we had a lot of robots in some shots. We had like 20 sometimes. Was it up to 20? At least 10, 15 for sure in some shots with the background and the foreground and all that stuff. Um, so there were a couple of tricks to kind of speed that up because these rigs are pretty fast anyway, the real-time rigs that they kind of control rig offers. But still, when you have 15 characters, it's also a bit of a pain to manage. But I'll talk about that when we get to the edit, sort of how we try to work. And hopefully this kind of gives people just a sense of how to create these things in Unreal. We know that basically the only thing I'll say for this whole thing is we know that there's better ways to work eventually, as things develop and the technology gets better, but this is how we figured out earlier this year. And it definitely was able to give us a result like we thought was working pretty cool. So
And that's
at
what
least just,
matters, right? There's no
yeah,
right way to do something as long as it works for you.
for a lot of people approaching this, it works. You know what I mean? It's a good starting point, and then you go into your journey into Unreal, and things will just keep getting better, save for us as we keep going. Um, so this is more of a standard rig. I've been using Maya for a while now, so I lost my shortcuts. But there's like the reason that this guy was a little bit more advanced is our other rigs don't have any kind of correctives or deformation fixes on them. But this was us starting to experiment because now in Real you can do just corrective shapes and stuff that you normally would do on a high-end rig in Maya or other software. So we had just started experimenting with that. And again, if you want a kind of a more thorough walkthrough, there's the walkthrough video we made. I don't think I'll go through all the bits, but you'll notice for some reason it's on the elbow. If you pick the middle controller here on the arm for all of the rigs, but mostly just Beta will have it, you'll see some of the correctives that we have in here. Sort of things to just fix some of the shaping, the fingers, when the skinning that came out of Maya, um, got some correctives in Maya for their Maya rigs, and that wasn't available in UE, right? Because we just brought in the base skinning. So we added some of that stuff back. Just so you guys are aware, there's a bit of that in here and you could play around with. Also for us, while we were animating the short, and Reel's got a lot of kind of shaping. It's got some lattices, and it's also got a thing called morpher. I think that's the right word for it, where we were able to just literally create morph targets with a pretty decent UI, and just adjust some of the stuff. We didn't have a ton of time to do that at the end. We would have done a lot more, but we still, we wanted to try everything we could when we tried to get the short done. So for me, a lot of that stuff's exciting. The fact that it works real time, it was amazing. I loved all of it. So yeah, just so you guys know, you'll find the rigs in there. They're totally animatable. You can do whatever you want with them. I've already seen some people creating some stuff online, which is super cool. There's dynamics on all the characters. I should also say that's probably the last big point that are just real time, like automatically generated. But if you ever want to just turn those off, you could see down here for all the heads, if you pick the head controller. Let me also get this guy up so I don't pick things. You'll see that that'll turn on the face and that'll turn on the head dynamics. And the base of each one, internally, we couldn't include all of our tools. We had a picker that somebody had made a widget in Unreal. We couldn't share everything, but we put most of it in there. But if you get the base of each one, you'll see that there'll be options. Let me go to wireframe just to get to the base of one of these. And then you could turn the dynamics on and off or play with the settings. It depends on what you need to do. Just so I noticed I got some questions about that a while ago. So you can turn them off if you need to. Some of the characters have earrings or like ponytails or hair. That's all kind of the same system. So you can turn it off per character. The only one that I kept, I did some of the shots of background work in the short. I didn't really have time to. I was supervising. Um, I kept all the dynamics on the cat though. We call him Gamma. He's not really a cat, but I call him a cat. That one works really well, and I never found it annoying. These sometimes we had to play with them, turn them on and off, because just like any dynamic system, you want to tweak them after. It's very rarely they'll like out of the gate, it'll be perfect the whole time. So anyway, that is the gist of that section. Let me know if I'm going too fast, by the way. I'll
No,
close
this is great.
this. Sweet. I'm gonna just refresh the level so I don't have to see all that. Oh, it turned into a tiny level. Okay. Good enough for me. New level. Go to basic. There you go. Weird. So anyway, back into assets, you'll find the characters. That's where we got all the guys that are available. Robots are a lot of fun to use as well. Um, our locations has a bunch of stuff. Like again, there might be other folders here that don't exist for you, but I'm assuming the structure is going to be basically the same for everybody. These are decals that we used just for kind of some bullet impacts. But there's just the basic geometry and some of the models. They're showing up empty for me. I don't think they'll show up empty for you on Fab because I sync to my Perforce. I apologize for that. But you'll get models and stuff. You'll also get a lot of the props. Oh, I think I must have a filter on or something. I just realized these should not be empty. um, interesting. Oh, okay. Maybe they are. Maybe these are extra on my drive. Sorry about that. So anyway, you will see some of the stuff that we use. So everything that's in the main set, and if it's a blueprint or not, it's all in here. So you can mess around with that. Um, besides the gym, the warehouse, these are the different sections of the set. We used all the shorts are happening on the same set, and we just modeled it all, and we're going to expand them for other shorts because there's sections that you haven't seen yet. So that if this continues to be a living project, I'm not sure. I assume we'll add to it, and then textures and stuff. So all that's in there for people to like look at, retro engineer, and of course there'll be courses and stuff coming out that might help if people have questions. All the materials. I know nothing about this stuff. Um, all the
But it's
props
very
we
nice to
used.
look at.
Yeah, yeah. They're pretty when they're all in context. Um, the props are going to be sometimes rigged, sometimes not. We used some that were just basic geo, and then we just constrained them. We didn't really need to articulate them. So when you go into each prop folder, you'll notice that some of them have a rig folder. But if I go to something like the USB stick, you'll notice it doesn't. It's just a model that we constrained. Depends on what we needed. Um, but these are also full functioning rigs. These are control rigs, not modular. The only thing I will say about rigging that I know is the modular rigs are basically you build an ARM system and you could put that on every character. That's why it's modular. And the old kind of control rig is just it's that rig for that specific mesh, and you can't really reuse it. Or you could, I guess, but it's not sort of optimized. So this is all the stuff we kind of used. I don't know. You can see the short on YouTube probably. But this thing, for example, this canister gets ripped up by Beta and thrown at somebody. I think I could kind of just cue that up on the side here. I think this will play for me. So he picks this up here and he kind of throws it at a guy or a couple of guys. The rig has everything that we use, but you'll see here, like we kind of have some deformation that kind of happened just from the impacts. That is separate. We used UE5 has lattices in there while we're working. So might as well just as we're going, like I'll fluidly just demo this crap as I go. Um, let me see. You could just basically take the control rig right here, and or I guess it would be up here on him, and there should be deformers. I think I forgot how to do this. It's been like 6 months.
That is so
Control
real,
rig. There you
honestly.
go. Yeah, yeah. Like I have a lot of things. You go to the control rig here at the bottom, and you can add lattices, and that's basically all we did. I won't set all this up properly, but it shows up as its own little rig. It's got its own little center. And so you can place this where you want and constrain it. That's basically what we did. It might not work with constraints all the time. Sometimes you might need space switching. If you guys aren't aware of that, that could be part of the Q&A section if people just really have questions about how to animate in here. But basically on the fly, a lot of people just use these and it just works out of the box. But like a regular lattice that you would find in Maya or another kind of software. So we did that for a lot of the stuff. We kind of deformed the doors and little bits, just the animators did it instead of like a VFX department. They assets of VFX helped us with other stuff instead. But that's how we kind of get that stuff done. So you have access to all of that. There's a whole bunch of props here. The pistol one has a very complicated rig for no reason, but at the time we made it. I think we're just flexing for no reason. But yeah, so you can go through all that. Rig common, this is for people that are interested in rigging. This is where the modules exist. There's blueprints in here on how we set up the arms and the bodies and all this stuff. This I absolutely don't know much about, but like I said, our rigging department's going to come out with some stuff in the future to kind of teach people a little bit about what they learned. And they were learning as they went. These were all Maya riggers, and then we got some help, not only from Epic but from other people, because we just didn't know how to do any of this. Effects is where we have a lot of the effects that we also included in the short. If I open up the short again, I'll cue this up. So I'll talk about the lasers last. The lasers were accomplished in a couple of different ways, but stuff like when he throws this, for example, and there's that stream of smoke, these are all Niagara particles. Once in a while, you'll notice there might be sort of uh, motes of dust in the air. That's all Niagara stuff. That's the kind of stuff you'll find in the effects folder, the smoke, sparks that you see. Sparks and lasers were a combination of two different things, though. They were Niagara effects that were live in the engine. You'll see it play. And then because we had sort of this 2D effects in the first short that we did, Alpha, we kind of want to follow that through in this one and keep the style similar. So what you'll see here, I'm just queuing up the short because it's a little quicker to go through. Stuff like this, these electrical arcs, and stuff like some of the lasers, like these hero ones here, or this one here. And you'll see me playing it later. It plays all real time, depending on your machine. These are screen space ones, we call them. So we had a 2D artist that worked with us on the first one, and he did a lot of the 2D effects just hand drawn for the first short. For this one, he just did the hardest ones. And what this basically is just if you know what an image plane is in Maya, it's just an image plane with transparency and it's right up to the camera. And so we have a combination of that. So we have these 2D effects, which are just basically electrical arcs, some of the sparks, some of the laser blasts that are hero. And then we also have 3D lasers in the background. These are little loop animations created by the artist that we stuck on a card, put it on a simple rig, and just translated it across the screen. So they're both done with that in mind. But all these arcs and stuff, this is all screen space. But in here, that's when you see the laser one, that's what that is. And unlike the others that are straight up a Niagara system, which are it's in the walkthrough video, at least how to use some of these. This one is its own BP, which I also talk about. So you want to use the blueprint for that. It's you just drop it in and you can mess around with it. This is my favorite way to animate lasers. I've done a lot of lasers in my career. Most of my career has been VFX, but this is pretty fun.
I'm honored that we got to help with your favorite.
Oh yeah, I love this stuff. Because I animated a whole bunch of them in the background. Mostly on this short, I didn't have time to do hero work, so I did a lot of background work.
Mm.
Um, and I animated some lasers by hand. So anyway, it was fun. So that's what you can find in the VFX. There's a whole bunch of stuff to mess around with. Omega 2, I should say. This blueprint works pretty well too. He's got thrusters that are also live. They're just Niagara. We had done them as pure 2D in the original short, but we found it was a decent compromise. Long term, we kind of wanted to turn. I'm not sure what the plans are with the Gore if we do them all in Unreal in the future, if we keep doing them, whatever it is. But long term, we would love that all to be just pure real time Niagara or cards, whatever way we can accomplish them. So this was us kind of, this was like a hybrid middle ground for us for now, because we were trying to learn as we went. But eventually we'd try to develop everything. So we just have everything that looks 2D, but it's just physical things in the scene that we can animate. But yeah, you have thrusters that you can attach to Omega as well. That's a little robot rig. Then you're getting into kind of more technical stuff like blueprint utilities. In here, there's a whole bunch of stuff I do not understand except for Light Manager and Camera Rig. The camera rig is just a very simple rig that we use to animate our cameras. And I can show you that a little bit more in the edit as well. Let me get the top root here so you can see everything. There's no camera that comes with it. We kind of attach those by hand as we needed to. Um, but it's still there if you want to, or else you could just animate a simple camera. Just create a cinematic camera. That's all we did. We didn't have a special camera that we made. We used the one that comes in Unreal. And then BP Light Manager, I could touch on it briefly later, but this was what our lighting lead used to sort of manage sort of the colors of the set. if you look at the short, there's sort of three, or I would say four kind of modes in both of the shorts. There's the characters at rest, just chilling, enjoying their day. In beta, actually, let me see if I can queue up the other one really quick since we're here. Sorry about that. I think it would be, yeah, let me mute the sound. This is alpha. We didn't really release this. This is just kind of on our website, so I think I'm okay to show it. But they're basically just chilling. So she's chilling out in the gym area. Let me get this back here. He's chilling out in his room with Gamma. Um, and then it switches to sort of what we call sort of like DEFCON 1 or the first alarm mode. That's what the BP manager does. It changes all the materials, all the kind of neon lights that we have everywhere.
Mm.
Um, and then there's kind of the fight in this mode. And then after, in his case, he kicks out the robots. Let me fast forward a bit. Once he kicks them out, the alarm goes off and everything just kind of relaxes a bit. You see it switches there. Same thing. So that was the next chill mode. After all the robots got defeated in the old short, excuse me, the lighting changes. And then we think that they're good. Hey, everything's great. But no, uh-oh, they're back. And now it's like the second kind of mode. So that's what the BP manager does. It switches the whole environment and the lights to the different kind of modes that we have. But it's basically red and blue, in case you're wondering. Um, yeah, so that's what that does. I'm going to keep that on the side. And yeah, that's the gist of what we would find in the utilities. I don't really know what the other guys do. Episodes, we had built this as a series, right? So there was one, two, three. That's why you'll notice it's called 02 Beta because he's the second. We'd also done a teaser really quickly for Unreal Fest earlier in the year while we were trying to create this short. And so that used to be in here too, but I guess we pulled it out for Fab because that was probably not ready for people to see. That was really at the beginning of us learning, and it was a complete mess, let's be honest. Technically, I mean, it was a lot of cleanup, so we just didn't have time to get through that. Um, Fab, this stuff is probably not going to exist for you guys. Movies is where you'll see the 2D effects that we used. So these will be sequences, and you'll see all the actual images. This is all available. I mean, they're very specific to the shots, so it's not going to be super useful for people to reuse unless you find a creative way to reuse it. But at least you see how it was done. It's all in there. Presets are for rendering. When you're at the end of the edit, you can just start a render. These are just some presets we had for the weekly renders. We included some of this. There's kind of a rendering manager and stuff that came out in 5.6 that we started to utilize a bit at the end. And then 5.7 even has like cinematic assembly. There's a whole bunch of new ways to work that I'm already out of date on. But that's what I'll do over the holidays. I'll learn how to kind of tweak all that stuff. But this is what we went with when we did the short earlier in the year. And then Python and widgets, I think these will all be empty. The only widget that you might see is the intro one. You can always just right click this if you ever want it. And there should be open widget, run widget, and that'll just give you that splash page that opens up. So yeah, and then engine is engine. When you first open this up, you'll get this option. It should be kind of an empty default level. This is how you set your settings for the stream here. I turned mine down. If not on my, I have it's an older card, but I think I'm told it's still a good card. I have a NVIDIA 3090 and I did all the editing and stuff with all the feature, like all the lighting turned to high and everything. I wasn't in cinematic, I was in epic mode. So when I'm working without a stream and all these things running, I can have this at decent settings and I just can press play and the edit will play real time. There's a few pauses between the cuts and we learned there's better ways to do what we did to avoid that in the future, but it's working pretty well, I think. But for you, if you're at home and you just want to go right into the edit, which I'll do next, you could just set this to low like I already did. You'll get this little icon up here, and then this will open up the cinematic level. I will press this and assume it won't crash, but never mind, I changed my mind. Because I got a lot of stuff running and I have Zoom and everything else. So just in case, I think I'll do
Playing
it
it
the
safe.
manual way. And it'll help you to see where this is, where it exists, right? That's where episodes is. And Welcome Idols is just a separate little level. That probably would be the first thing that would open up for you as well. Just have the characters idling and there's a sequence playing. But here is the structure of the edit. I think this is, at least for me, the meat of where I worked and where all the animation team worked. We really, effects and everything is in here, but they're working separately. I'll explain how that kind of goes. Um, there's the master level and the master edit. That little icon, if you're not sure about Unreal means I've edited something in there. I was probably scrubbing around before the stream, just in case you don't know how that works. But nothing should be. Oh, let's just say no to everything, and it'll just open up the master level. This looks a little better if you have full settings, which I'm not going to turn on. It'll look exactly like this. We had no comp job or anything in this. The kind of challenge that we gave ourselves was to make sure that this comes straight out of engine with absolutely no post work after. It's just so whatever the engine could render, that's what it looks like. That's why we made some of those hybrid choices for the effects. Because on the first short, we basically did a comp pass on a lot of stuff. Just because that's just the more traditional way that we were all used to working in kind of more linear pipelines. And so we figured, oh, don't fix it now, fix it later, do some color grading later. In this one, we did everything with, oops, we did everything with post processes. That's all in there. So the final look is the final look. It just not reflected here. It's a little darker because I turned off a lot of the bells and whistles, volume and all that stuff is not really showing right now. But if you open it up and you're brave and you have a good machine, feel free. It'll all look amazing. And then you can open up the edit. That should take a second. Oh, I have some anim layers. So this is basically how we set it up. I muted the sound for now, just for my own sanity, because it's a techno beat. Um, and basically, it's pretty straightforward. This is probably one of the things I fell in love with the most about Unreal, especially in the role that I was in. We could just edit the shots, you know, live. We can figure out a lot of stuff. It all just exists in one engine. It all exists in one place, I should say. And at any time, we were able to see the latest effects. We were able to see the latest anim. Everything was just always there. I've said this probably in the video too, or I've said this other places. It's a double-edged sword. It's like video game production. Anybody could submit anything and break it for everybody. But at the same time, anybody can submit anything and you could see it all. So as long as you manage that, I found this was way cooler than I've worked mostly in VFX companies and I have to do animation and I get my animation approved with the Play Blast and then I got to cache it out and then it's got to get to rendering and then that takes who knows how long and then there's shading and there's lighting. There's a bunch of different steps. And this, everybody's just working at the same time. So it's all just there and updating as the final work comes out. Every morning you'd be surprised with like a new lighting pass or a new anim pass. It was pretty cool. And it just simplified a lot of stuff. Um, but the basic structure, if I just kind of click on this camera here, that's our basic shot. Um, I should be able to press play. It's not playing real time for me, but again, I think it's because of all the stuff I have running. And you see it doesn't look as great as the short right now. Let me turn off all the artifacts here too. But you could basically go through. It's basically the whole short, and it just looks nicer than what it looks like on my screen right now. Um, and yeah, so you can go through, and I just want to kind of explain the shot structure, I guess, roughly. And if there's more questions about that, we can go into more detail. I'll take the one that I love the most. Well, the one I love the most. It's kind of freezing on me. I feel my computer's unhappy. But again, when I'm not streaming and I don't have 60 things open, it's great.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, up here, let's go back a bit. So we have a couple of things to talk about. This is sort of, let me just reduce all this a little bit. So there's the camera cuts, cut tracks. That's all standard stuff. You just create a cinematic camera. The way you want to think about this, or at least the way that we worked, and somewhere on one of the Agora sites, there's a separate video I made of the basics of how we set all this up. If you ever want to do your own short or cinematic or something at home. But the basics is how this works is there's one sequence per shot, and within that, there's a bunch of subsequences per department. So there's the set anim. Set anim is because our asset team, as the short was going on, the door was getting damaged. There was decals of like damage on the walls, glasses breaking. So they animated that throughout the shot. So the set was changing. So behind the scenes, like if you just turn off the camera and look at it play in real time, you'll see just weird stuff happening outside of the camera view, stuff popping in, set pieces moving, just like we would normally do, chaining stuff when we needed to. The audio is the audio, but I turn that off. The control rigs and the baked animations. This is the last thing I'll touch on. This is mostly how we worked in Anim, which is what I was mostly involved in. But then there's the lighting track, and in here, there's two types of lightings, I should say. We had the base lighting. Like if I turn off the sequence, there's already base lighting in here. Oops. I don't know what I did. And I zoom in on something, it's all just disappeared.
Oh no.
Let me try this again. Let me just clearly get a new level in and just reopen it. I'm sure it'll just default to some view. Oh, I opened up the wrong one. My bad. No, I did something, but let me get back to it. Weird, eh?
Everything was going way too smoothly, is what it was.
I'm notorious for live demos, but
So are we. So are we.
maybe I can try something. Maybe I can just open up the edit again,
Yeah,
and
maybe.
then if we click on this, okay, we're back here. I just zoomed out in some weird way.
Oh.
What I was trying to show, I must have been behind a wall or something. I don't know. What I wanted to show was that there's a base lighting in the scene, but then per shot, it's reloading now a little slowly. Um, per shot, there was specific lighting. So when you're in the outliner, I go over this too in the walkthrough video in case I didn't demo that too well. But you'll notice that there's going to be sort of in the outliner, there'll be empty groups. If I kind of hide all this, I go down to lighting. There's base setup, right? And environment lights, and then there's shot setups. So per shot, there'll just be empty groups here. They're only populated like when you open up the sequence, that's when it'll spawn the lights because they're all spawnable. So we had a base lighting for the whole scene, and then per shot, the lighting artist was just tweaking things and highlights and getting the shadows where they wanted. So that's kind of how we worked. Also, an awesome way to work. I don't remember that too much from kind of back in VFX days and more linear ways to work, but the fact that you just spawn in what you want for the shot is just gold for me. So that's how you'll see how that works. And in here, in case they had to animate stuff, whenever you see a track like this, that usually means somewhere there's probably some keys somewhere uh, that they might have animated or turned something on and off. So you'll see that they had to do lighting interaction with the 2D work. So whenever there's like lasers here, these things aren't emitting any light. So they cheated that in lighting. They had to do those interactions themselves. Whenever we use the CG lasers, those already had lights on them that were already kind of casting on the environment. So that was pretty cool. But that's how you can go through the lighting stuff and check that out if you're interested in that. VFX, same thing. They were working in their own tracks, and you see little animations here and there. In this case, VFX is some extra sparks from Niagara, not related to the 2D stuff. Um, and here, after he slams the ground, there's a very subtle, it's not showing up right now too well, probably, but there's a little bit of like dust and stuff that hits the camera. That's probably some kind of cache or some Niagara stuff. There's a bunch of stuff going on under the hood here. But you can go in and mess around with everything, just don't save. Um, because or if you have a way to back it up, because then you'll mess it all up. Yeah,
One of
that's
the
it.
few times that they'll hear us say, "Don't say."
Well, like you'll see me, I'm ignoring it. If you're new to Unreal, I'm not sure if this shows up on the interface, but down here you'll see. Yeah, I think I see my mouse there.
Yeah.
21 unsaved. Every time I touch something, it's like, oh, you changed it. Do you want to save it? I just do this, and I go, yeah, go for it. Um, that is one thing that's different than like I'm a Maya. Most of the industry I think works in Maya or one of the other softwares. There's a little bit about that where you got to make sure you're careful with what you're saving because you can touch everything just by opening up a shot.
Mm.
But it was easy to overcome. Like we didn't really have any issues with that. It was just something people had to learn. Once in a while too, depending on the shot, you'll notice a track like this called media. This is the 2D flat. I'll show you what it looks like. I hope I can. Let me see if I can pick a piece of geo here. Oh, maybe not. And just zoom in on this if I turn the camera off. Let's see what happens. Oh, damn it. I don't know what this is. Anyway, long story
Back to
short,
the void.
I could have shown you the camera and it had like the little image plane right in front of it with the lasers.
Mm.
That's the media thing. So if you slip this around, it's going to just desync all the laser animation. It's really just animated texture that's playing right in front of the camera. So you'll notice that in some shots, not in others. And then finally, you have the camera rig before I jump into animation. There's the rig and the actual camera itself. They're separate because it's just how we worked. We attached our camera to the rig, and I'll talk a little bit about how we edited that in a second, but that's the gist of how you'll see that in every shot. And once in a while, when I was trying to override a PPV is a post-processing volume. So our lighting lead had like sort of environment or like God rays or whatever. And their post-processing would override sort of the way depth of field worked throughout the project and certain other things. So sometimes I wanted to override their work. You could just drop in a post-processing directly in that shot, and I made the motion blur a bit bigger in some moments, or I made the depth of field a little bit wider. Like that's all that is. You won't notice this in every shot, but that's what that's doing. It's overriding the global lighting and look of the shot, of the sequence, I should say, or the set, just to make it look a little different per shot. It's only in like two shots, I think, or three, whatever.
Close enough.
That's the gist of that. Um, and then kind of going back to animation, there's kind of two um, subsequences here. There's control rigs and baked animations. You'll notice that this is muted. The reason is, let me open up the anim. This is where we worked. So this is where you'll see the live rigs. You'll see how they come on, they get spawned right away and they're live. So you'll see that this animator used a lattice for the door deformation. And then there's some shapes kind of on the rig being activated too to fix some of the poses. If I turn this off, that stuff is kind of under the hood, and you've got to ask Remy, our anim soup, for that. I don't have an answer for how he did all that. I know the gist of it, but I don't remember exactly everything. Again, it was a few months ago. But this is where the live rigs work, and this is where we could always, we have this linked. So, for example, I'll just kind of point this out very clearly. This right here, which we're calling control rigs, this is anim work. If you go into the structure, you'll see every folder per shot. And so taking this as an example, shot 55, here you'll see the main sequence. That is what's plugged in here. I'll give it a second. This guy here, literally you just drop it in. You just drop this in, and now that's shot 55. And inside that guy are all those subsequences we're pointing out. So that's where you'll find the sub-levels for effects, animation, lighting. This is the baked one. And then you'll go into an anim workspace, because we're mostly an animation company, at least historically anyway. We're anim centric, I would call it. Parts of us anyway, parts of Agora. And so we had our own anim workspace. And so when we were in prod, we were iterating this file. So just like in Maya, you would say version 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mhm.
Our animators, we had tools that we couldn't include in Fab that I would just save. And the basic way it works is to keep the edit light, we turn off the control rigs and we just play these anim sequences that are baked down to the skeletal mesh. That's what you're seeing in there. So what I would do is I'd work, if I open this up, it's going to be exactly what you saw before that I went through. Oh, but you won't see the camera. Don't do it like that. You want to work through the edit. So let me go back a second here. I go to the edit. But that's where you could find the anim scenes themselves. And if you're not sure, you can even just, let me just open this up here. I'll click here and I'll click on, oops, control rigs. What I was just pointing you to, what I just opened up now, that's in here, 55, and in workspace. It just opened up this guy right now. See the star, because this is, I edited it. And so we would save, and it would automatically generate these link sequences or these caches. These are not caches, sorry, these are just baked skeletal meshes, and that would populate the edit. For the purposes of Fab, we included both tracks. But really, when I was working, this was muted, and this was on. It's the same animation, but there's no control rig. If I went into here, which, just to be super clear, is this guy in the sub level, this guy here. If I went into here, you're not going to see, you're just going to see the lattice, but you're not going to see a rig, because these are just the baked out anims for speed, right? Especially for shots where he's like grabbing a bunch of robots, like all these ones, and bless the animators that did this. Um, you know, these robots, some of them are cached, some of them are not. But in the real edit, when we're playing, these are all cached. Like there's no active control rigs, just to speed it up a little bit. But the reason we really liked this workflow too was we kind of had this automated, it was always generating baked scale meshes, and we also had live rigs, was just like you might in Maya, or at least back in the day for me. If I had a bunch of characters, I also don't want a bunch of active rigs, so I could pick and choose who I would turn off. So this guy now becomes a light scale mesh, and I just have a control rig on beta. And then this guy's a control rig. Like whoever I'm working on is a live control rig, and whoever I'm not is just the last baked version I had of him, to just keep it light and keep it manageable. We also did that too with the layout. We had done our layout pass in Unreal, which again, if you go to the Agora site, one of them, you'll see a walkthrough of the basic, the logic of what we had. We did a layout, and so we could just turn, we could keep them as layout caches, or they're not caches, they're just baked anims. But at any time, we just convert them, bake it onto the control rig, and we could start there. So we could start having a mix of just layout characters that were super light, live control rigs. Eventually, when we had multiple characters, it was a combination of everything. Like a shot like this, up until the end, we didn't really animate Gamma right until the end of the short because we were working on the rigs as we were working. So Beta and Robot first, we developed those. The other rigs kind of came out somewhere in the middle, and they stayed layout caches the whole time, basically. Um, which the layout was animated with just the scale mesh or something very simple. We didn't have control rigs for them because they're just sliding around. And so that just it kept it all just in the screen, interactive. It was wonderful. So at some point, right, this guy stayed his layout right until like the last week, I think. So he was always jumping on his back, but just wasn't really animated while we worked up everything else, the background guys. The other thing it allowed us to do, which we took away a bit from Fab just to simplify it, was we also had two anim workspaces for hero characters and background. So I literally was just taking a bunch of clips that we had done in pre-prod and sticking them in the background and creating little scenarios while the animators worked on the foreground. And all that just exists in there, and they could see the updates if they wanted, that kind of stuff. That's it. That's the gist of it. Um, and I do think that's what I have. That's all I got. I
Yeah.
think that went about 40 minutes or 50 minutes, but yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, this was awesome. I do also really thoroughly enjoy the idea of you just working in the background with a bunch of these little mini scenarios and stuff and just
I I, I
having
love
fun
it.
in the background.
Kind of like doing game animation. You just do this little discrete moment. It's
Mhm.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it adds so much extra life, you know. It makes everything else in the scene feel like it's still happening, but that is I feel like that would
And
be my favorite part of it too.
I've done it all. This is kind of like a fun Saturday afternoon. Well, Saturday, don't work on Saturdays, but and we scoped it down too. I initially wanted kind of more robots, but then we're like, it's kind of getting a bit too busy, so we just kind of took out a bunch. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun to do
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, if you're up for it, we have a couple of questions that came in through chat
for
throughout, but
sure.
yeah, thank you so much first and foremost before we dig in for showing us all that and walking through some of that stuff. That's a really fun peek at the project and what's available to them and also just some fun stuff that was going on with it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, awesome.
The first question I've got here is folks are curious if you know if like the rig setup and everything is easily transferable to another character or if you recommend they just stick with the characters that are available in the project.
So, as in you want to change just the mesh?
Hmm.
No, I don't know off the top of my head. I probably have to do some kind of Unreal tutorial on YouTube to figure that out. The modular rigs. This is something that I'm excited too because I every time we release content, I learn because I watch all the stuff that goes on the Gore community or almost all of it.
Hmm.
So I don't. I'm sorry. I wish I could answer that better. I don't know. I just know that these. If you go down to rig common here, this thing here can apply to anything.
Mm,
Um, so let's go for. Let me see if I can just pick like a spine, for example. This will go on any scale mesh. And I know that the riggers and the effects artists, everybody that worked on the show, they tried to at least put some kind of, oh, this is not the most complete one, maybe, but they labeled everything as best they could. So if you do understand a little bit about rigging, um, you can sort of figure that out. But like I said, there's definitely stuff coming. If I go to
mhm,
beta 2, I think beta, and you go to his main control rig here, modular rig, I should say. That's the corrective control rig. There's also probably, I mentioned this in the video, there's a post process that's running too. If you don't know what that is, I don't, not technical enough to get into the weeds. I just know that the way it works is you can have a rig, an animation rig, and you can have a post process animation blueprint that will do things after the fact live, like kind of at runtime. That's
mhm.
how we did our correctives. So that's also running. It's a little bit complicated. Um, Beta takes a while to load because he's a heavy. But I
Big guy.
know that if you look in here, there's definitely stuff that you can figure out on how to just change the scale mesh that he's assigned to. I don't know if it's as easy as doing this preview mesh. If I did alpha and you had another scale mesh that's in your project, you got to make sure it's the same bone naming that I know for sure. I don't think it's as easy what I just did. It's waiting, it's thinking.
We'll see.
I,
Yeah,
I
maybe it
hope it
is.
doesn't crash. I'm gonna just not touch anything for the next few minutes. I'm good at crashing any software, so that's why I'm very paranoid about that. So
It,
yeah,
it happens with the engine. It's, we've all been there.
it still happens with Maya for me. So I think I've been in CG a long time and just crashes is part of it. So just
Hmm.
save often or carefully.
Or never,
Uh,
depending.
or never. Yeah. It kind of changed it, but I'm sure this is not, the chest is big. Um, there might be better stuff coming out, but like I wouldn't. I know for sure you can reuse the modular rigs to put it on other characters for sure, but I don't know the ins and outs of that. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you for going through that part anyway.
Yeah, there's
'Cause
stuff in there you can play around with for sure.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Um, there was another question here. Oh, that I'm actually gonna answer because I saw a answer from Chase in chat, which hello Chase, if you're still here.
He
Um,
definitely knows.
yeah. Someone was curious about a some additional control ring training that came out. This is a totally separate thing. Don't worry, we'll get back to the questions for this. Just want to let folks know that apparently the rigging course workshop will be released publicly mid-December. So if that's
That's
something y'all are
amazing.
interested in, keep an eye out.
I think one of our riggers went to that too and said it was awesome. So
Oh, awesome.
that's cool.
Yeah, will be available for all soon enough. Soon. Next question I have for you, though, Marco. Someone said, I'm old school. Is this project easy to pick up for those of us that have been working in stuff like Maya forever?
That's a that's the question we get asked a lot. And I don't know how old I'm old school as well, but like I'm base Maya. I've been working a long time. I don't have like Animbot. I don't have I have a few scripts that I use that I've just stolen over the years or assembled over the years, I should say. Um, so for me, the transition into animating in Unreal was pretty straightforward once I got my head around just how levels and sequences worked.
Hmm.
Um, let me see. On a side note, I'll just in case I need to look at anything, I'll just bring a rig in. Um, oh, I see. I screwed it up. I think I changed it now, so it's always going to be her. So let's find another rig.
Oh,
Uh,
no.
I'm not fixing any of this. I'm just gonna get that done here. Hold on.
Someone else's problem.
Let's take. Well, I'm just gonna reset it all later. Let's just take Delta's modular rig as an example. So this timeline, and it comes with a curve editor. This works basically just like Maya. I highly, everybody internally, I just keep sharing the same, and I don't have it here. I'm so sorry. Or maybe I can find it too, like on the other screen. Epic's on their website, they got a sort of page that shows you, hey, do you want this to feel like Maya? Look at all these settings and set your shortcuts this way. And that's what all of us did. We all basically, I didn't really, I do this with any software though. Like I've been through Softimage and Max and like a bunch of smaller ones and Motion Builder. Um, I just use the same shortcuts in every software if possible. So constraints is always the same and frame changing is all the same. So that's just how my brain works. I don't relearn things. That's why I never learned Blender because everybody told me that I should learn Blender with its shortcuts, and I just never learned it because I'm that lazy. Because all the tutorials and stuff are using default shortcuts, right? But
Hmm.
for that aspect, you set your shortcuts the way like Maya. You set your all right, one sec. You set your widgets and that your manipulators to work like Maya. All that stuff basically feels exactly the same. There's nothing there. The thing is that if you're like, again, I don't really know Animbot too well, but that's some of the stuff I heard from the team. They're slowly adding like the difference between 5.5 and 5.6 for some of this stuff was pretty big. Um, so they're adding like all these things that I think Animbot does have. So slowly it'll probably get to some kind of quote unquote I don't even want to call it industry standard because a lot of my friends we just use base Maya. I have a friend that's insane and doesn't even use shortcuts. He just clicks everything, and he's like
That's
the
good.
fastest animator I know. But depends
Someone
where you're
get this
coming
man a
from
rest
in
brace.
that. Yeah, the more kind of custom Maya you're using, the more you're going to notice there's a difference. But if you're more kind of base Maya, you're not going to notice as huge of a difference.
Hmm.
So that was the biggest first thing for people to just get comfortable with the UI for those that were really deep in the weeds with like custom scripts in Maya. The other thing we noticed, like I said, is, um, and I can explain this briefly for people that really don't know. The whole way that, my scene is you open up a scene and you reference in rigs. This is similar in the sense, but your scene itself is just a level. So that's in our case for beta, it's the set that we worked on. But every sequence that you work in can open up in any level. There's this is let me get you to here really quick to just show you the basics. Let's take a much simpler shot. Let's take 10. It's only got a couple of characters. I don't have my background open here, right? Let me make a new level. And so I can open up, oh, not 10, I guess, sorry. Let's take 30. Um, it might not have the camera working in it, but that's okay. Just because of how we set stuff up. Like this opened up, you see all the animation off screen. That's how magic is made. Um, this is sitting in the level at the right place, but it can be opened up in any level. So you can open up any kind of background or level you want for your set, and then you spawn the characters in with a level sequence. That's kind of the smartest way we found to work. So these guys don't exist until you open up the level sequence, and then it spawns them all in. So that's the first thing to kind of wrap your head around. It's not just to open up a scene and reference in rigs. It's sort of you have two parts to it. There's a background level that can change any way you want, and then there's your characters and things that you're animating in a separate kind of file. They're not really a file; it's a level sequence, and so that's kind of how you want to work. And I'm not going to get into the exact weeds. It's very specific, but there's things that will mess you up if you're not sure how that works, how that interaction works. Every time you want to edit a piece of the set, we found it smarter to bring it into the level sequence and edit there, not change the set, because then you're changing the set permanently. So if you want to add like another box to your set, it's going to add it to the set, not to your level sequence. If I'm already confusing you, good. That's the stuff you just got to get over. It's not very hard, super straightforward. But once you get past that kind of logic, I think that also bumped people a tiny bit at the beginning. But then everything else is pretty much, I know that they're improving stuff too, every version, but the outliner basically works the way you expect. The other thing I would say too for animating is the reason I fell in love with this is because there's already like some quality of life stuff that doesn't exist in Maya. There's already a bunch of stuff that's already built into the engine, like retargeting animations on any character and like IK reaching. The rigs, if you build them a certain way, they're automatically synced. So IKFK switching doesn't matter as long as you key everything; it just works right away. Um, the craziest thing for me, and I know that it's not 100% perfect, but what I found the most amazing, and we also work on Fortnite sometimes, as a studio. So I worked on some Fortnite projects. I love that I can take this rig. It's called reverse baking. I can take this rig, I can bake it down to just a skeletal mesh. So now it's just a mesh with bones that have rotation information, and I can rebake it back onto a rig later. So oftentimes I did a shot and they're like, oh, we found these cycles that we want you to stick in here. I would bake it down to just a clip, like if, in this case, I open up what's called an animation sequence. Not the same as, so these are just clips like you would see in Maya's, oops, I just screwed something up here. Maya's time editor. If I slide this around, that's his, I love his animation being broken. Um, and this works just like time editor too. So you can like, edit this. Oh, well, I should probably pick it, but you can like shorten this. You can bring in another clip. You could do a bunch of stuff like that and mix and match, and blend them and all this stuff. And then you could just bake that back onto a control rig. Like I'm a my animator that's not afraid to bake stuff. I bake stuff anyway because I often build little kind of mini temp rigs over the character just to get the behavior I want. So I'm used to baking. If you're not used to that, you know, maybe it's not the best workflow for you. But yeah, there's like a lot of built-in stuff that I find better. Also, like when you add a constraint, I won't try to demo this live because I'll butcher it, but you add a constraint and it just automatically adjusts your curves. So there's no pops. Or if you change the space of a thing, like I animated my hand, but then later I'm like, oh, I want it to be in hip space now, or I want it to be at this point in a different space. It'll just adjust your curves. You don't have to like do any kind of fancy stuff. In Maya, it's much more manual, at least for now it is still. There's a lot of kind of under the hood stuff and I see more of it getting introduced. Just seems like it's kind of fun once you get past that initial logic leap of like this is not Maya, this is a bit different. I think a lot of us enjoyed it. Some people didn't though, straight up. but they were very
Which is
happy.
fair.
Yeah, yeah, we're all different. We all have different ways to work. Like again, my friend uses no shortcuts. It makes no sense. So we're
That
all different.
is
It's, ins
certified
it's insane.
insane behavior.
Anyway, yeah, that's it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that perspective there. Hopefully that's helpful to our fellow old school animators in chat that had comments there for that.
Yeah.
Next question here for you is someone's curious about, from your experience working in Unreal so far, how do you think this pipeline or pipelines like this will affect things like making films and short films in the engine instead of things like just games, as a lot of folks are traditionally used to using the engine?
Um, I suck at predicting the future. I think it's really hard. I'm excited about this more than I've been about anything else. I know I'm on an epic stream. I know, but I'm really not like promoting this. Like for me, from my experience with what I saw what the team was able to do, what I was doing in there, and I'm using it more and more too. I like this. I hope this is the future. Just because I think from a production standpoint, having everything in just one DCC, there's a lot of benefits for production. Again, double-edged sword, don't submit broken stuff. But to me, I think it could be good. And we had to limit our rendering to, I think, to real-time rendering. Like we couldn't, like I said, we couldn't do post-process or anything. And the challenge for us was to be able to press play, which you can. But Unreal's already got like path tracing, like other rendering that's pretty good. Like we get some really good stuff out of it already. And if that just keeps progressing, I can see it just replacing some old workflows, and being kind of efficient for companies to use it. But who knows, right? I didn't know about AI 6 years ago, so like I have no idea what's tomorrow. There could be some new amazing, but right now the trend for the last 2 years and how much it's changed, and in a lot of our views improved a lot. Like it's pretty cool. I hope it keeps going that way, and yeah, I could see it changing, especially like the way some smaller companies work for sure.
Mm,
For sure. Like Agora is one of them. Like we're trying to see how much we can learn about this and how much we can improve how we work with the engine.
yeah, that's awesome. Next question I have here, kind of a good build off of some of the previous ones, but folks are curious if you have any advice for those who have never animated in Unreal who want to jump in and learn how to do so. Like, were there maybe any initial hurdles that you got over? What is your pain points that you got over so they don't have to live through it, sort of stuff?
So those two main ones about just get the UI kind of feeling comfortable with if you do know how to animate. If you're completely new, just learn what you want. That's fine. Start from scratch. If you're like coming from Maya or they're so different though, I think Blender and Maya as far as sort of the UI, but get the UI feeling comfortable. Um, for sure. And then there's also that hurdle of the logic of how all these interconnected pieces work. Like I said, setting up an edit, you can, it's all pretty straightforward once you figure it out, but kind of figuring that out. At the same time, though, what surprised me the most is there's a lot of already good information out there on the internet about how to animate in Unreal. I just suck at finding it. Like I think I would default to going to some YouTube creator, but Epic has just a bunch of stuff and articles and videos on their channel too, and on it's not a wiki, but Epic's got like there's a site I keep going to that's got like Epic stuff. Sorry,
The Epic developer community for
thank
games.
you, thank you. Literally, yeah, right, all this. That's really there. Like there's some times where we would ask a question to somebody at Epic, like, oh yeah, yeah, there's an article on that already. Like, oh, I had no idea because I suck. Um, but yeah, I would say like there's a lot of material out there already on how to animate. I'd stay away from some people just show you like I'll do a YouTube search and say, "Oh, how do I animate in Unreal?" And I'll find stuff that's not at all what I'm talking about. Make sure you look for the words control rig. Make sure you look for if you're talking about this kind of animation, because or
Mhm.
else you're going to get a lot of video game animation, how to set up systems, blueprints, because that's what's been around for historically longer. So just make sure you're using the word control rig. And yeah, there's a lot of good resources out there on how to animate in here. But the two biggest stumbling things is the way files interact with each other, files, sequences and stuff. I think that's pretty different from regular DCCs. Um, and then the UI. And then the real time aspect of stuff. The fact that this is a real time engine, you can set it to kind of work. If you go like, this is a sequence, right? So this is an animation timeline that I'm working in, if I could use that word. Oh, I should have queued that. Oh, let me go into the thing. But thank you for doing that. Um, on the ball. Um, but up here, um, you can see there's clock source, there's tick, platform, play every frame. What this means is, and don't ask me to tell you what all these things mean exactly, but the gist is it's running real time as fast as your computer can go. So sometimes you'll see stuff in subframes, like glitches, like if you switch spaces, if you don't have it set correctly, you'll see everything working the way it is, right? And that can also be, you're like, what the heck's this bug? Like, what's going on my screen? I don't get what I'm seeing here. You have to figure that out too. There's a little bit of that, but that was like the least of it. I think the biggest thing was understanding the logic of how to save and iterate, at least with this current workflow, and overcoming the UI differences and all the bits. But it's getting better and better every time. One thing I should point out too, it just kind of crossed my mind. There's a whole bunch of settings here. There's a great talk that I wish I could find now. I could find the link if that's okay. While we were learning,
Yeah.
we saved a document, sort of the whole team, the animation team learned animating together. And let me just cue that up. There's one of the ones I found the most helpful that if I can share a link, I don't know where I can drop that for you.
Yeah,
It
go
came
ahead and drop
from
it
one of the
in our chat
Discord.
here. Yeah, or that
Oh,
too, either.
you UE5 learning. I'm sure I can find this. If I don't, I apologize. I'll back out really quick. Um, it was an animator, somebody that works at Epic that was just showing how they kind of achieve certain things, and I found that one so helpful, especially at the beginning. Um, Let me see. Making your animation. It's something from Unreal Fest 2024. This guy. There's tons of stuff, by the way, but just off the top of my head. So, so let me see if this works. Can I do this? Okay. So where would I post this in?
You can go ahead and toss it in our Discord, and I'll toss it in chat from there.
So I don't even, Discord is, I don't even know how to do that.
Has disappeared. It's somewhere.
I see a thing called stream link drop off. Am I okay to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Total props to this person. Sorry, I can't remember their name at the moment. But that video I found like ways that they set up their timeline. Um, There's a lot of helpful stuff there too, if you want to learn Unreal. But keep in mind, this is just one video of all the stuff Epic has put out. That's just, if you have the time, it's worth it. It'll kind of speed up your learning process, I find. Instead of what we did, which is trial by fire, which is we were in prod and we're like, okay, let's do it. Um, yeah,
Hey, sometimes the best way to learn is to just get in and do it. So,
we absolutely got through it, you know. So, and it wasn't crazy painful, so you can do
yeah.
it. Just, but where everybody was a senior, you know, they had a lot of experience too. They had kind of that going for them too. If I'm not sure if that would be more of a challenge for somebody that's kind of starting out in animation.
Mm.
Um, cool.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. Just drop that in chat for those of you who'd like to go check out that talk as well. It is a good one for sure. The last question I have here, I'm not going to keep you here all day, but last question I've got for you is out of everything with the project, if there was like one piece of advice from either learning about Unreal or just about making this project in particular, out of the whole thing, if there was one piece of advice that you would give out to other developers, what would that be?
Um, Try to take into account, well, we knew what we were doing, we knew what we were getting into. But if you want to start a project in a professional environment, like where there's money on the line, like, you know, you're paying people, definitely have a bit more pre-prod. We joke about this. We dove in, like we're a small company and everybody kind of knows each other and works together. So, but I think uh, don't underestimate that there's going to have to be some learning and be aware that that will affect your final result, right? Because you have a finite amount of time. Um, and that's, but it's not something I learned. Like we know this. I think we just decided like, screw it. Like we're just doing it. Um, but yeah, like know that there's stuff, the expertise. How do I put this in a way? It's not like Maya and using certain renderers like RenderMan or whatever, all the stuff that people use, that's been around for like 20 years. And so there's a lot of people, there's a lot of industry knowledge. There's not a lot of industry knowledge about Unreal on this side of it, you know, maybe video game stuff, yeah, but not like cinematics and short movies and this. So if you're doing this in a professional environment or for yourself, just don't underestimate how much you have to learn and how people out there don't really know either. It's not like you can just hire an expert. Okay, this person will take care of this for me now. You
Mhm.
can, and more that's probably showing up. But we found that like like that's why we did it as an internal project. We're like, okay, we're just going to make everybody inside here just figure it out and learn how to do it because we couldn't, And Agora is like a company that has a lot of contacts and contractors, and we've got people around the world. And even then, it's just slim pickings, to be honest, of
Mhm.
people that are like, yeah, I absolutely know how to do this 100%. I can deliver.
Yeah.
So don't underestimate that. As far as this, it's still new. It's like, I know it's not new as an engine, but this part of it, I don't feel has been around for more than, at least on my radar, for not for a few years. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, don't underestimate that. There's stuff you have to learn. There's stuff you're going to break. I broke a lot of stuff. Our team broke a lot of stuff. And what? How did our CG Soup say it? I think he calls it the 16-inch problem. But the problem is always between the chair and the screen. Like
Mm.
90% of the things that you do wrong, it's user error. Like you just don't know what you're doing, and you just figure it out. So there's going to be more of that because it's also kind of new stuff. So don't underestimate that. That's the biggest thing I would
Yeah.
say.
I love
Yeah.
that. That's great advice. Yeah. Be the one that learns how to do the thing instead of hoping someone else can do it.
Yeah, and take that into account, like with how much time you're going to be doing this
Yeah.
with. Don't expect that it's going to go. Uh, you know, yeah, it's not fully
Yeah.
established.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you. That was great advice. And also thank you for just walking through the sample projects as well and
My
explaining
pleasure.
how a lot of this works and yeah, giving us that behind the scenes of quite a few of the stuff, a lot of the features and stuff that's available in it. Really, really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. This was wonderful.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, for all of those who came to watch the show, first of all, also thank you for being here and being part of the show and asking questions. It is for you, so we appreciate you
Hope
being
it was
here.
helpful. Hope it starts you guys on a fun journey.
Yeah, it definitely will. And if you missed any part of the show and want to go back to rewatch it or revisit any of that, you can do so because we post all of our streams in video format that can be viewed on demand on both our Twitch and YouTube channel at Unreal Engine. You can also keep up with us at Unreal Engine on all of our socials to keep up with the latest news, updates, all that kind of good stuff. And then last but certainly not least, if you haven't already, please come join us on the Epic Developer community, which is where we have things like our documentation, a lot of the learning articles and tutorials that Marco was even talking about is
Please
available
do. Like I
directly
mean
there.
it. Like yeah,
Lots of help there available for you,
amazing
as well
stuff on
as
there. Yeah.
yeah, as well as just our forums too, where you can ask questions and all that kind of good stuff too. So I'm glad it was helpful for you. This is really good for my pitch
It
here.
was chef's kiss. Like honestly.
With that, thank you so much, everybody, for coming. One last big thank you to Marco for joining us today. And we'll see the rest of you later. Go enjoy the sample project, play around with it. Let us know what you think. And we'll see everyone later. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.